Peace and blessings to all of God's children. I pray this finds you well. I ran into a couple this morning when I was down in the park, and we had a real interesting conversation. They were asking me about, conversation that developed into us talking about the Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know how many of you out there may know what that is. I'm going to give you a look. The Stockholm Syndrome was a term that they took from a bank robbery situation in Stockholm, Sweden. And what happened there, a strange type of psychology developed. The hostages, they took hostages in the bank robbery, and somehow them being held as hostages, with them, and hearing why they were doing it, because it was, a greater reason other than they just wanted to rob a bank. They was trying to get this money. They had a cause, in the early 70s, everybody, like I said, everybody was mad as hell, and everybody was doing something. But that's where the term came from. Now, as far as I know, clinical psychology doesn't really consider it, according to that, whatever that definition is of something. But it's so evident. And it's not just with hostage situations. They say it also, it deals a lot with, domestic violence, you know what I mean? I personally knew a woman when I was living in Hampton, Virginia, direct experience. She had a guy, he would beat her up so bad, and I used to ask her, I said, don't you think it's time for you? And her response to me was that he do that to her because he loves her. And if he don't do it, she thinks he don't love her no more. I know that's a lot, but I'm just saying, it's, and see, it's a level, we have to think about people that's into masochism, enjoy, they into pain, they like, they like pain. I mean, you got masochists at various degrees, they like little things, they like, receive pain. I mean, but the Stockholm Syndrome, and what I wanted to speak on it about here today in this video, I've witnessed it on a lot of different levels in prison. I've witnessed it through whatever, they say that it's not, I'm just saying, Google it, and look it up yourself. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome. And it's a thing that, like they say, hostages or victims in an abusive situation may develop feelings of sympathy, empathy, or even affection for their captors or abusers. Now, in prison, when I first went to prison, the only women that you would see working in the prison were some type of secretaries or something, or maybe, a group or something will come through or something. But now, they had litigation in the federal courts and everything to make it mandatory that women receive jobs where they could, earn like men. And so they started hiring women, putting them in, right in men's prison. And y'all know what I'm saying about that. A lot of times, that the relationships be developed in there. And there's some guys in there, they done fell in love with their captors because she's in there to be a correctional officer. Now, whatever they got going off on the side, that's something else. But I've seen guys viciously attacked because some other, prisoner had disrespected her, or whatever it is, So, that's an example of it. Another example outside of the prison, like I said, it's a whole library of situations in there. There are guys in there that just fall in love with the women in there, just go out of the way and just become so, defensive and what have you. But all of that is, on the Stockholm syndrome, it's a psychological phenomenon where individuals held captive develop positive feelings or emotional bonds with their captors, often accompanied by negative feelings of distrust towards authorities or those trying to rescue them. See, now some people are so paranoid, you can't help them. Now, I mean, now that's on different levels, because some people, they just scared to death of police. That's just all it. I mean, they just freeze up. They can't think straight. There's other people who they so involved in something, and they develop all these different fears about this could happen, that could happen, and I've actually seen people have emotional breakdowns because of this. And after people have an emotional breakdown, I mean, a lot of people, they have breakdowns. And a lot of them, when they come back, they become real docile and, servant, where they were once, fiery, they had some individuality about them. But this whole Stockholm syndrome, is... You see it even in slavery. You had the field Negro and you had the house Negro. Well, you saw Django, you saw Stephen and Django. I mean, they just get all the way into it. I mean, now Samuel Jackson played a very powerful. I mean, I was mad. That role he was playing. I mean, he's a brilliant actor, but that was so. I mean, it's that since he's a slave. I mean, here it is. He getting more. Who is that Negro on that horse? I mean, I was screaming at Jamie Foxx. This Candyland. I mean, the place is in shambles. He still. That's all he had. And when you break people down and you reduce them to levels like that, of course, the Stockholm syndrome, I mean, that's just people that just, for all different reasons. Now, I don't agree with this, they say it's not a sign of weakness. I think that's sort of like play on words. They say it's not Stockholm syndrome is not a reflection of a person's character or moral feelings, but rather a response to traumatic or coercive situations. Let me tell you something. Pressure will bust a pipe. Yeah, you can sit back and say, you going to do this and you ain't going to do that. But let somebody get you somewhere and they're torturing you. I mean, and they do touch it. I mean, they making you experience some pain you never felt before. So, I mean, it's a lot of ways to stretch a human being to a place where they become compliant. I mean, they can hurt so bad on certain places. And I don't want to hurt like that, no. So, but the whole thing with the Stockholm syndrome is a person has an oppressor and they fall in love with him. See, that's what the thing with Stephen and Django was all about. He had felt in a sick, strange type of love there. With his identification to this place as being they call head Negro in charge, and as he saw it. But he didn't run nothing but his mouth. And see, I'm gonna come forward to modern day times. It's a lot of people operating under Stockholm syndrome, and they don't even realize it. They have developed some form of hate where they have actually become that which they hate. If you do something or talk about something all day, every night, I mean, you're becoming something. If every time you see me or I see you and you're talking about this person, place, or thing is trying to, I mean, the mind is a powerful thing. But believe it or not, as powerful as the mind, thoughts, and everything, it only handles one thing at a time. Now it's at a blinding rapid speed now, and it's moving all around. But bottom line of it is, we become whatever it is our mind chooses to embrace. So I'm gonna stop this right here, and I pray something came out of here that can bless you, and just trigger something within you, because we all got a story about somebody. It's so obvious that they're being abused or taken advantage of or whatever it is, And I've personally had situations where it just bothered me, so and I wanted to go over there, but it really wasn't none of my business. And I mean, now in this day and time, it was something like that. Well, I just pray. And, I just asked the Most High, look, if it be your will, give me an opportunity or occasion to insert myself. If not, thy will be done. I mean, no, I'm not going to get into it. But the Stockholm syndrome, is really about people becoming the enemies that they create in their own mind. Peace and blessings. I pray this bless you, rich. One love.